Wait for some people to come in. Sorry for the wait. I am just typing in something. Hey, we're gonna get started pretty soon. I am waiting for my special guest to join me. She had a injury earlier today. She cut her hand. There she is. Hey, come on in. Okay. Go live. Hey, come on in. We are going to get started in just a minute.
Good evening.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I left with 2 stitches. The smallest ones hurt the worst.
How are you feeling?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh my God. What happened?
I was trying to chop up the meat and got my hand.
What kind of meat was it? Were you chopping up like some chicken or something? Okay.
I was trying to chop it up so I could put it in freezer bags.
Okay.
So I could save it, so I can take a bag out and cook it, and then I still have other bags in the freezer.
Yeah.
Just yelling at the kids, not paying attention, and accidents happen.
Oh my God. Well, hey, I hope you feel better soon. I'm so glad that you were able to still make it. How was it you said you went to the ER?
Took forever. I just got
Oh my God.
30 minutes ago.
Oh my gosh. Well, hey, you are a trooper for even joining. Are you on like pain medication?
Yeah, they gave me Norcos, but I'm not. I took
Okay.
ibuprofen because I've never took Norco before, so
Okay.
I don't know how that's gonna make me feel. So I'll
Yeah.
ibuprofen.
You girl. Well, I am praying for you. I hope your hand feels better soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, earlier, because we didn't have a chance to do our live earlier today, girl, I started working out. My neighbor was outside. He had just got some workout equipment, and so I took the opportunity to get some exercise in. And so if I'm moving kind of funny, it's just because I'm a little sore. My shoulders up here are a little tense and stuff. And so, okay, well, it's kind of late, so I don't want to hold you too long. I do want to just get right into talking about your book. I had done a little bit of research, and so I was like, I just want to hear it just from you, if you don't mind.
So,
First of all, introducing yourself and telling us about your book.
so my name is Frances Dupree. I am a new author. I published my book April of this year, and the name of my book is Marrying Outside of God's Will. Um, my book is basically my journey. At the time, I was in a 12 and a half year relationship, and I was trying to find myself, find my relationship with God, and understanding. And I went through a lot of mental battles. I battled with depression and suicide attempts, and my relationship was toxic. Domestic violence was involved sometimes. Sometimes I was the victim, sometimes I was the aggressor. At the time, I ended up having 8 sons. So my book basically starts off from me being heartbroken to a previous relationship, to me meeting my ex and us having our kids and just going through the journey.
Wow.
And it's in the book, I'm very transparent. Like, I speak about a lot of things because I feel like everything that I went through. Stop making her cry, please. Everything that I went through was necessary for me to come and tell my story and my testimony to help somebody else. Because not a lot of people are willing to discuss the things that they battle with. So because I'm healed now, I'm remarried, I have a daughter, life is just done a complete 360. I'm able and well enough mentally to talk about the past and to let other people know that they're not the only ones that go through things like this. Because a lot of times people are ashamed. They don't want to admit that they're dealing with depression or they're battling suicide or they're, excuse me, in a domestic violence relationship, or, they can be the aggressor. Because I was the aggressor sometimes, and then sometimes the victim. And, I have children. Before I got married, I had 6 sons. So I dealt with poverty and being unstable and all of these things I talk about in the book, and that's not something that everyone's willing to be transparent about. But
Yeah.
because where God has me at in my life right now, I'm able to do that. So people know, okay, well, I'm not the only one. She's been through it too. And not only that, I'm living proof and a walking testimony that there's life after. After all of my mistakes and all the things that I've done, God is still able to use me. So if he can do it for me, he can do it for anybody else because he's not a prospective person.
Okay. Wow. And so tell us a little bit more about just kind of about your relationship then. Can you go into a little bit more about that? So it's called Marrying Outside of God's Will. So were you married to this gentleman that was abusive and things like that? Or maybe explain a little bit more about the title.
Together for 12 and a half years total. We were married for
Okay.
4 years. When we were about to get married, I prayed about it and God was like, don't. But I felt like I deserved that title as
Mm-hmm.
wife. That was my whole thing is he's ready to get married now. And I deserved the title of being a wife, which is true, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
was not supposed to be his wife. And I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm remarried, when you're married to the right person, whether you're a man or a woman and you're being loved the right way, you live up to the best of your potential. And no shade to throw at him. I still have love for him, but
Mm-hmm.
I was not the right woman. So he was not able to be to his potential. I was not able to be to my potential. But now that I'm in the relationship and in the marriage that I'm supposed to be in, I'm able to live to my full potential.
Hmm. Talk about that, because the other day one of my cousins had sent me one of the videos from Jada Smith's Red Table Talk.
Mhm.
And in the video, she was interviewing Sierra, and Sierra was talking about, just the difference between, in a subtle way, she was talking about the difference between Russell and Future, and she was just kind of saying like how she felt different. Would you say that you've experienced the same thing with the gentleman that you were with before and your husband now?
It's a complete difference.
Okay.
I feel like I feel and I'm treated like a queen daily. Even
Mm-hmm.
arguments and disagreements, I'm not being called outside of my name.
Mm-hmm.
Being treated disrespectful, I'm not being cheated on. I'm not being put down. I'm not being told what I can't do. I'm actually, life is being spoken into me. It's something
Mm-hmm.
I think like my husband believes in me more than I believe in myself. So based on the way that he loves me, the way that he treats me and he talks to me, I'm able to thrive and do all of these things. Writing a book, publishing it. I do Transparent Tuesdays on my Facebook page, motivational speaking, still going to school, like all of these things I'm able
Mm-hmm.
to do because of the life that he speaks into me. So there is a major difference. That's why I say when you're loved the right way by the right person, because sometimes we try to make relationships work and fit, and it's not, if it's not meant to be and you're not that person's soulmate, it's not going to work no matter how much you try, how much you love that person. It's just not the right love. So you can't, the relationship is just toxic. And no matter what, there's always going to be some type of clash.
Yeah. Oh wow. So were you like an active Christian at the time in your previous relationship, or where were you at in your faith?
I was still learning.
Okay.
Like the more that I was learning and the more information that I learned and the closer that I was trying to get and strengthen my faith, the worse
Mm-hmm.
it became.
Oh wow.
And till
Wow.
this day, I'm still learning. I don't know everything. It's
Mm-hmm.
a process. I don't think that there's one Christian that knows every single thing about being a Christian.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. So how did this book kind of come about? Did someone inspire you to write it, or tell us about that?
Well, towards the end of my previous marriage, I was actually in Bible college getting my bachelor's in ministry. And I kept saying that I was going to write a book, Marrying Outside of God's Will, which I have no idea why. Because
Mm-hmm.
to be an attorney, not to be an author. And after my divorce, I sat down and I started writing, but I was so angry and so bitter. I was making him out to be a monster. I wasn't writing objectively.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped writing. Then I started to try and write again, and it was still coming out the same way. Well, fast forward, I get married. I have a daughter. Mind you, I have 8 sons. I've been praying for a daughter for 12 years. So
Wow.
finally, my heart's desires are starting to come true. And I start writing again, but only 2 people knew that I was writing. And then I got
Mm,
a prayer line with 2 friends of mine, and the prophet said, "You need to stop starting and writing the book. That God said there's souls waiting for this book."
mm-hmm.
And after that, I just sat down and just started writing. I didn't stop. And
Oh,
I was
wow.
write objectively and not make anyone sound the way that they shouldn't, because I was happy and healthy and mentally stable and all of these things, so I can let the message that God wanted to get across.
Mm-hmm. And what was the overall message?
The overall message is just basically, like I said previously, letting people know that they're not the only ones that are battling with certain things, and there's still life after that. There's no reason to be ashamed. Everybody goes through something for a reason. If there's no test, there's no testimony, and
Yeah.
God will still use you. So that's basically the overall message.
Wow. That is amazing. Definitely. It's so interesting. I used to work at a shelter for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault for 5 years. And so I had no idea that your book was, about your struggle a little bit with domestic violence. And so for years, 5 years, I sat there and listened to women share their stories about what they were currently going through. And every now and then we would have someone who had been out of an abusive relationship come back and share their story, about how they made it over. Why is that so important to you?
It's important because sometimes people think, well, let me say for myself, I
Mm,
because of how many children that I had, there wouldn't be another. I had a bad
yeah.
child, and being alone and by myself was more scarier than the relationship.
Mm.
So because I was afraid to be by myself, I chose to stay in the relationship.
Oh wow. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think that a lot of women and men who struggle with that, there's obstacles, and I think fear is definitely a big one as to why they stay in those abusive relationships. So wow, I'm so glad that you're able to get out and you're safe and things are different for you now. So, um, how has your journey been so far? You said April you published your book, then, right?
Yes.
Okay, how was your journey from writing to publishing it to where you are now? What's that been like?
To be honest with you, it was a lot of drama. So
Okay.
I have this thing that, if I'm rising and I'm bettering myself in life, I want those around me to rise
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
well. So I try to bring those closest to me along on the journey. And the first publisher that I used, I was compromising. I had a vision, but I allowed her to talk me into basically her vision for my book. And
Oh.
there was just a lot of clashing. We weren't on the same page. And then eventually, her computer crashed, and I was ready to move forward because before COVID, I was going to have a book release on April 25th. So
Mhm.
because I had deadlines to meet, I'm like, okay, you're not ready, so I need to move forward. So I moved forward with a different publisher. I created a whole new cover, a whole new back. I had professional pictures
Oh
done
wow.
on the back of the book. So basically, it worked out for me
Mhm.
a better way than what the project was going to look through before. And then I lost a friend behind it and got
Wow.
talked about really bad behind it. And
Wow.
I stopped compromising. It got to the point where I was like, this is my vision. This is how God has given it to me. This is how I want it done. And the new
Mhm.
publisher that I used was all for it. She was
Mhm.
all for the late night talk. She was all for read it the cover like 5 6 times. She was all for it. Her thing was, this is your vision. This is a project that God gave you. So the way you see it, that's how it needs to be done. Don't allow me to influence you or anybody else to influence you. do it the exact same way. So after that, then COVID happened, so I wasn't able to have the book release. And of course, I was heartbroken about that. And I felt like, in a way, the people that were talking about me were winning because I couldn't have the book release. One of the things that was being said was, oh, is this book really of God? Oh, God had to shut down the whole world for her not to have a book release. So I felt like, dang, like, she's
Oh,
winning.
wow.
But then I went on Facebook Live and I did like a book release that way. And
Okay.
surprisingly, I think the people that were meant to have the book that day had the book that day because people put orders, people had already purchased tickets to the book release. So as soon as I got the inventory in, I got the book to them right away. And the 25th, multiple people had the book and they were reading, and it all worked out, not my way, but God's way. The message still got across and the people still had the book. So that's what's most important.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's important. And you reminded me of something that's so key and something that even I tell myself every now and then is don't change the goal, change the plan. And that's okay. If you have to change the plan up, do things a little bit differently, but don't change that goal. And so that's amazing that you were able to overcome that. Were those people that were kind of like being negative? Were they like really close to you? I know you said you lost a friend behind it. Were they someone that was like telling you, oh no, this isn't of God and things like that? Or
Yeah, she was like a sister to me. So
okay.
went to where I was like, God, I didn't ask for this. I didn't, I want to be an attorney. I didn't ask to be an author. I'm just doing what you told me to do. And dealing with a lot of backlash and drama. I don't want to do it. And
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, you need to do what I told you to do and allow me to deal with it. And that's basically what I did.
Oh my God. So how did you have time? Girl, I've been listening to your kids in the background and I'm like, honey, when did you have time to write your book?
Believe it or not, there is quietness sometimes and downtimes. And
Yeah.
I didn't prepare them and tell them like, hey, I'm going in an interview. You guys got to be quiet, because usually they are. I just kind of sat over here and started talking. But I find time for myself. Like I make time to still be Frances. That was one mistake that I made in my previous marriages. I lost myself. So of course I had to find out who Frances was all over again, because I lost myself in the title of wife, in the title of mom, in the title of friend, and, so on and so forth. So now that I've rediscovered who Frances is, I make sure that I take the time to not lose myself again.
Yeah. Yeah, that is important, definitely. And so if you're an author and you're listening to this, you just gotta find time and make time. And I think that, and I don't know about you, maybe you can give me your opinion on what I'm about to say, but I think being an author really pulls out your character. So if you're someone that struggles with time management, being an author is gonna bring that issue to the forefront. Or if you're someone who struggles with following through and finishing a project that they start on, being an author is going to be really difficult, because if you have a book inside of you, that's what people say, I have a book inside of me. If you have a book inside of you and you struggle with discipline, like I said, or finishing or following through, or just with yourself, these different characteristics, it's going to be difficult. But on the flip side, if you don't struggle with those things, I think you will be a little bit better. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think that being an author, it's time consuming, it's time management, especially when you have a deadline or a goal as to when you want the book out there. You have to make sure your edits are done. You got to make sure your cover's done. You have to make sure, everything is done in a timely manner. Not just that, the way the book looks, the way it's printed, the editing of the book, all of that stuff is important.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. And so how long from the time that you wrote the book to the time that it was published, how long was that?
I'd say the whole process was maybe 6 months.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Do you think that's normal? Or do you think it?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure. This is the first book that I've ever written, so I don't know how much time it usually takes, but I just know that I had a goal and I was able to meet that goal.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Definitely. I think So I've been interviewing authors for a little while now, and everyone says, it just depends on you. You set your deadline and try and meet them. And so definitely, yeah. But I would say 6 months is is pretty decent. Being a publisher, I'm kind of more so looking probably after October. I'm looking to work with more people who are interested in, doing the traditional publishing route. And so just in the future, those people are going to have to be able to understand, like, we need 6 months, because in 6 months there's so much that has to happen. And that's 6 months from after you've written the book and submitted it. So the writing is already done. The next thing that would happen would be proofreading and marketing, and things like that. And so it takes that time. Were you able to come up with like a marketing plan, or where are you at with that?
Actually, no.
Okay.
It was kind of more of like word of mouth. I've done a lot of marketing on social media. Um,
Okay.
and then when I've joined different groups, like the writers group and, all these different groups that there's online. So when I
Mm-hmm.
post and people say, I want to interview authors, or I want to do a podcast, or I just spoke with someone earlier today and I'm going to do a radio interview with her. Then I reach out and I say, hey, what needs to take place for us to have this interview?
Mm-hmm.
Because I figure whatever their platform is, that's it's another it's another way to market, and it's another way to get my book out there, because I feel like the title is catchy. When I explain it to people, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not only about marriage. That's the misconcept that some people have.
Okay.
They're like, oh, I've never been married, or I am married but it's not a bad marriage. Well, it's not just about that. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
woman that had a life and a journey that I went through, and some of my journey can relate to some people and some of it can't. But it wasn't just about the marriage, it was the whole lifestyle, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
that I lived, and the struggles behind that lifestyle, which is the bigger picture. So when I
Mm-hmm.
explain that to people, then people become interested and they're like, oh, okay, maybe I do need to read that book, or I know a sister or a brother or a friend who needs to read the book.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. See, because I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Marrying outside of God's will. I didn't know if you were for it or against it or what was going on. So I said, well, this should be interesting. But okay. Okay. So then, talk to us a little bit more about just the social media marketing. You said that, and I think that's how we connected too, was through a Facebook group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe just give the authors that are listening or that are going to watch this replay some tips about that. Just about how you can, maybe I would call it networking,
Yeah.
to market your book.
Well, so on Facebook, there's a lot of groups. There's the Black Authors United. There's Black Girls Write. There's just authors. It's a bunch of, I can't even tell you all the names, but
Yeah.
there's.
It's a lot.
So as I started to see them and I was reading the description of the groups, the ones that I felt fit me and
Mm-hmm.
my book and the message that I'm trying to give, I joined. And
Mm-hmm.
so at nighttime, I take time and I go through each group and I just look at the new posts and I see things like, people want to interview authors. They want to have them in their magazine. Some things you have to pay for. Some
Yeah.
you don't have to pay for. This is something, this is a new project for me. Like I said, being an author was kind of just placed in my lap. It wasn't something that I really wanted to do, but since it was given
Mm-hmm.
to me and it was a God-given assignment, I'm trying to do it to the best of my abilities. So I'm learning as I go. And
Mm-hmm.
networking on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
I have Snapchat. It
Okay.
works. I've noticed that, other people are starting to share my stuff. Other groups,
Mm-hmm.
like authors groups, they're starting to share my book and different things that I do. Like how I mentioned, I do the Transparent Tuesday. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that video is being shared to other people and it makes other people reach out to me. So for me, so far, it's been a good networking opportunity. I'm
Yeah.
still learning and, trying to figure out what the next move is.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And say that. So LinkedIn, how do you feel about the crowd that's on Facebook versus those that are on LinkedIn? Have you been on LinkedIn for a little while or?
I've been on LinkedIn. The
Okay.
first time I was doing job search, and then this
Okay.
I have LinkedIn. I'm just basically trying to get my message of my book out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a big following, but the few that I do have, they like things sometimes, sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that Facebook gives me more of an audience because I've started to take my page from friends only to public. So
Okay.
my page public and posts that I do relating to my book, relating to motivational speaking, it gives me a broader audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because I know I've been playing around a little bit on LinkedIn and I feel like my things get seen more whenever I post something on LinkedIn. It gets seen more versus Instagram and Facebook. And so I haven't really figured out as to why. Maybe because I feel like Facebook and Instagram are more saturated
Mm-hmm.
than LinkedIn. I don't know. So we'll see. That'll be something that I'm interested in, getting more so on LinkedIn and reaching like I I would say LinkedIn is probably more for like business professionals
Yeah.
kind of things like that. And so we'll see. We'll see. I'll have to do another Instagram live and update you guys if you're interested in knowing about just the different.
Like I said, I'm more than interested in
Mm-hmm.
eager to learn as an author how to get myself out there, how to get the book out there, get the message across. So I will
Yeah.
definitely check that out because
Yeah.
I'm just grasping for straws, trying
Mm-hmm.
to opportunities that I can.
Well, let me give you this little bit, this tip that I am doing, getting ready to do for my authors. It's pairing your book with other items. And so, for example, let's say there's a quote, a really good quote in your book. Put that on a mug and sell the mug along with the book or have the mug out. For example, I recently designed this mug and it says, right now, think later. And so, one of the most frequently asked questions that I get as a publisher is, how do I start writing a book? Let me send you a mug right now. You know what I mean? Right now, think later. And it's catchy. It gets people to, talking about it. And so I recommend every author get another product that would that might be inspired from your book or that could be sold with your book and do that. Come up with things that you can put in a basket that go with your book. Mugs are really great because a lot of the times people are, they got their mug in one hand and their book in the other, or they might have their mug close by and just things like that. And so it's just thinking outside of the box. I feel like authors, as writers, we're creative. And so it's just thinking outside of the box a little bit and saying, okay, what else can I do to push this book? And I think that by pairing it with other products, maybe even bookmarks. Bookmarks are so easy to make. You can go and there's this program that I use called Canva. And so I don't know if you've heard about it, but Canva, you can make any kind of graphic image, or they have stock images, you can use that, put a nice quote from your book on it, design it, make it real cute, print off a couple and sell them. That's, you know what I mean? And sell them to go with your book or give them away and things like that. And so I'm getting ready to launch that for a couple of the authors that I'm working with. And I wholeheartedly believe that it's going to work because, maybe if you don't want the book right now, hey, go ahead and, get the bookmark or get the mug or the
Right.
t-shirt or the tote bag, or there's so many other things that you can pair your book with, that it's ridiculous. You can come up with a whole gift bag just based off your book. So maybe, that might be something to think about. But I know doing these Instagram lives and like Facebook lives and talking to other people just virtually has also been really helpful. Have you done this a few times or is this your first time?
Time that I've done a Instagram live, but
Okay.
a few Facebook lives. I've done some podcasts. I've been in a few magazines. I've
Okay.
interviews done. So those have been awesome, and I'm excited to see the results from this Instagram live because it's the
Mhm.
first. So
Okay. Yeah. Well, you guys definitely make sure you follow her, hit the button up top, follow her. If you're from her page, give me a follow. Definitely, and stay tuned. So it sounds like you're doing so good. If you just published your book in April, girl, you are doing way better than a lot of authors who've had books out for at least a year. So I want to just commend you and let you know you are on the right path. Keep it up. And I want to say these virtual things will continue to be a thing. I think they will help a lot of authors, especially because of the distance. Where are you located?
I'm in California in
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, girl, you right up the street. See, I'm in California. I'm in Orange County. You up
Okay,
the
we're not
freeway.
far.
Yeah. Okay. But see, even if you were like in New York or something, this works, And it's so funny so I have my own podcast and it's seasonally. So definitely I would love to get you on. It'll be out again in October.
Oh,
But just through it, I've been able to meet at least one author in 22 states in the United States. And so for me, that's huge because it's my goal to at least get to all 50 states. And so just by knowing someone there, I'm like, okay, I want to come and visit them and connect with them and, say, hey, we started with the podcast and now we're here, you know what I'm saying?
right.
Drake. And so that's just what I see happening in the future. For myself, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I see myself finishing my bachelor's degree, which I'm working on right now, finishing
Okay.
law school, and I see myself doing conferences with both of my books because I plan on doing a second to this, Marrying Inside of God's Will. So
Mm-hmm.
that way because the way that I end the first book is kind of like a cliffhanger and everyone's like, okay, what happens next? I want more. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write the second book as to Inside of God's Will, the life that I'm living now.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be like they're both a pair. You can't read the second one if you haven't read the first book.
Okay. Yeah. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay. It's so funny. I was telling my daughter, she always makes an appearance on my IG lives. Anything that I do, you'll see like her little head come poking in. But today she was so focused on whatever she was doing that I was able to escape. I was able to escape. So I totally get it. It's just being a parent. Kids, they just kind of do their own thing anyway.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, where can we find your book? Is it on Amazon or where is it?
So right now I have the paperback and I also have the ebook.
Okay.
You have a Apple product like an iPhone or an iPad, you can buy the ebook from Apple Books. And
Okay.
the ebook and the paperback is on Amazon. It's on Walmart. It's on Barnes and Noble. It's on IndieBound. So both of them can be located in those places.
Wow, that's awesome. So, do you have a team that's helping you or you're doing all this yourself?
I have a wonderful assistant. Her name is Carly. And
Okay.
she kind of helps me with like the behind the scenes and I bounce ideas off of her at 2-3 in the morning. I order my inventory for the books myself, that way I can sell autographed author copies.
Mm-hmm.
She keeps track for me, like, okay, you spent this much, this is how much you made on book sales. um,
Mm-hmm.
I mail the autographed copies. I don't just send it in a regular envelope, like it's a
Okay.
whole package, everything that
Mm-hmm.
goes with it. So she keeps track of everything for me, and then sometimes she makes the late night mail runs, or if I have something going on that day, she'll make the drop offs for me if they're in the high desert.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's so important. And I think, you touched on a really key thing is it's important to have at least one person supporting you. Just through the different author interviews that I've done, that's one of the biggest things that self-published authors struggle with is finding the support. And maybe sometimes you just need one person that's going to help you deliver, these things, like you said, making sure, your signed books get out and things like that. Where did you find her online, or is she a close friend of yours, or how did that relationship begin?
A close friend of mine, she's like a sister. Our kids ran,
Okay.
that's how we originally met. And then I invited her out to some of the kids' birthday parties and the kids really connected to her, and they're like, oh, mom, I want her to be my godmom, and things
Oh
like
wow.
that. We built a sistership, is what I call it, um,
Yeah.
based on that. She's a friend, and it turned into so much more. So
Yeah.
her that I was writing the book, which she, like I said, no one knew in the beginning. She was
Mm-hmm.
so excited, and she's like, okay, whatever you need help with, I'm gonna help you. And
Mm-hmm.
been A1 since day one.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. I'm so glad. And I want to just give a shout out as well. I wouldn't call her my assistant. I would say she's definitely my sister, but she does help. She does work with me like an assistant. She's on this live now. Just shout out to my friend Kemi. She's been working as my PR person. So she'll let me know how I did after this is over. So I just want to shout her out and tell her thank you for being on here tonight. And just for some of the others that have come in, definitely, if you have any questions for this author, we are talking about her book, Marrying Outside of God's Will. If you have any questions, please go ahead and post them in the comments. And so, do you have any advice that you can offer other authors that may be listening to this or watching this? Maybe give us 2 or 3 pieces of advice.
So, advice for authors would be just get the thoughts on the paper. Like, that was my biggest thing. When I first
Yeah.
started, I didn't put it into paragraphs. I didn't edit it. I just wrote. That was my thing, was I needed to get my thoughts down on the paper. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I would say that if you're writing a memoir or something to where you're trying to help others, transparency is the key. Don't be ashamed of the mistakes or the things that you've been through in the past, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't know, that one mistake might save somebody else's life. So I always say, don't be ashamed, because it happened for a reason. It's the past. You can't go back
Mm-hmm.
and change it. People always like to hold it against you, but you're not that person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So because I know that I'm not the person that I used to be, I'm not ashamed of my past. Yes, that's who I used to be. Yes, I made those mistakes, but guess what? I'm a new person now. So the
Yeah.
mistakes that I made might help somebody else. And also stay with it. Like, don't give up, because sometimes people write books and they start off strong, and then they give up, and they don't finish it all the way through. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I wrote a book, and well, where's your book, or what's going on with your book? What's happening now? Stay the course.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency is key.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so true. Consistency is key, especially if you're looking to build your audience. I tell people all the time, there's billions of people in this world. You need
Right.
to figure out how you can get in front of them, how you can get your book in front of them, and don't let one no stop your show, or don't let fear, stop you from moving forward. Because a lot of times, like you said, it is fear
Mm-hmm.
of the process of how someone's going to market their book, or fear of not meeting the deadline, so then they just end up not doing it. Just those different things get in the way. So I definitely agree with what you said. Definitely don't be afraid, share your story. But I do want to ask, did you get permission from your ex to include him in the book, or how did you go about including just the different people in your life? Like, did you change the name, or did you put a disclaimer on the book, or how did you go about doing that?
So every name except for mine and my mother-in-law's name is completely changed. So if you don't
Okay.
know me, you don't know the people in the book.
Okay.
I had mentioned to my ex that I was writing a book. He didn't really take it serious. And now the
Mm-hmm.
book is out, and he's like, oh, I need to buy one. But I didn't write the book to where it badly represents anybody. I
Okay.
didn't write the book to where, even if you, like, people that do know me and know him and have read the book, they had to ask me, well, who is this person and who is that person? So I
Mm-hmm.
made sure it was discreet in that sense, but I was transparent enough to get my point across.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that, and that's good, because I think that's also a holdup for a lot of authors. Is, well, I want to write my memoir, but what do I do about the people that I'm mentioning in the book? A lot of people say, well, can I get sued? Things like that, and I think that's a whole nother discussion about that part. So, but I like the way that you did that, and not being negative, I think, about other people says a lot about your character, especially after they've hurt you. And so that's really good. Okay, well, we have about 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we get to this game. Are you ready to play with me?
Yeah. I'm
Okay, so if
trying
you don't know what,
to
go
know.
ahead.
But I'm not good at rhyming, but I'm all
Okay,
for fun and games. So let's give
okay.
never know
Yes, let me tell you.
self.
Yeah, I love to have a good time. Anybody that knows me knows I love having a good time. I love to laugh, love to relax. And so I just figured this was appropriate. It's a literary game. It's called Let's Rhyme. I have my beautiful wheel over here that I'm going to spin, and it's going to land on a word. And so I'm going to spin this right now. Sorry, my phone is attached to something. So I'm going to spin it, and I will tell you what word it lands on. All right, it landed on later. So that's the word that we're going to rhyme with. So we're going to play 3 rounds of this. And the best 2 out of 3 wins. And so I've played this with 2 other authors. They really liked it. But I won both of them. I beat the both of them. And so let's see. Maybe you'll get, I call them team guests. Maybe you'll get team guests on the board. And so, okay, I will start. And we'll just go back and forth.
Yeah.
We'll go back and forth until someone can't come up with a word. The rules are you can't repeat a word that's already been said, or if you take more than a few seconds to come up with a word, then that means you lose. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So later, hater.
Faker.
I'm not gonna think of one. Okay. So I lost that round. All I could think of was hater. Okay, all right. Let me spin it again. Let's see what other word. Okay, so we already did later. Okay, the word is time. Okay, you start.
Prime.
Rhyme.
Fine.
Dime.
Kind.
Lime.
Oh shoot! Did I?
Okay.
So
We're at a tiebreaker. Okay, 1 point for me, 1 point for you. Let's see who's gonna win this one. Okay, let me spin it. Okay, this one is right. Okay, so I will start. Right. Fight.
Kite.
Kite.
It's your turn.
And so that means I win again. I am the champion of this game. I swear, you guys, and I'm not even cheating. I sent her the words before this. I try to give people a fair chance. And so, hey, that was so much fun. Thank you for playing with me. Just before we go, is there anything else that you want to share? Anything that we did not get to discuss that you want to talk about? We have about 15 minutes.
The last thing that I want to say is, I guess I'm reiterating it, just letting people know, you're not the only one. I call them the hidden battles that have dealt with things and like depression and battling with suicide, or like I have multiple children. I have 8 sons and I have 1 daughter. Mm-hmm. I've been homeless. I've been to jail. I've dealt with poverty and being evicted and sleeping in the car. And you're not the only person that goes through these things, and don't feel ashamed. I did a live the other day discussing how God will never give us more than we can bear. And he says that it's not something uncommon to men. So basically the things that we go through, it's not uncommon. It's something that other people, whether they're older or younger, it's someone else that has experienced it as well. But the awesome thing about it is that God always provides a way out. Whether you get yourself in the situation, whether the enemy is trying to attack you, whether life just happens, because sometimes life just happens and things just happen and you just get so caught up or overwhelmed you don't even know how you ended up where you're at. But he always provides a way out. So that would be my thing to know is don't be ashamed of the past. You're not the only one. And there's life after. And I'm living proof of that. I don't know if you can see my family. Oh, my family pictures behind me,
Yeah.
but there's life after. My life has
Yeah.
been a complete 360. You know, in my last marriage at one point, I was in love and I was happy, but the good didn't outweigh the bad anymore. And it just
Mm.
became toxic for both of us, for the kids. And I think that because I was more in my faith walk further than he was, I
Mm.
take more responsibility for it because I knew exactly what God told me. And because I was not obedient, I opened up all of us to dangers.
Mm.
So just be mindful. Like sometimes the things that we want are not the things that we need. Because I wanted a
Mm.
title. Yes, I deserve that title, but not from that person. And that
Mm.
was the important lesson that I had to learn, that I overlooked and I wasn't being obedient. I saw a picture on Facebook the other day where God was kneeling down to a little girl and he told her to give him the bear. And the bear was like this
Mm.
big. And he said to,
Yeah.
and behind him, he had a bear like this big.
Mm-hmm.
So to us, it may be something big, and we don't know that if we let this go, the huge blessing that he has for us.
Yeah.
I'd say just be mindful. Don't be ashamed of the mistakes. Know that you're not the only one. There's outlets, there's people to talk to. If you're outside of the situation, like my dad's friend told me that he loves my book because he was able to look at his daughter's relationship in a different way.
Oh wow.
Being
Yeah.
judged has a lot to do with people that are victims or aggressors or whatever the case may be being quiet because they're
Mm.
ashamed and they're afraid of how the next person is going to judge them. So it's kind of like, oh, I'll stay and deal with this. That way I don't have to be talked about, or I don't have to be put down or called stupid, or, all of these things that happen when you get judged. Because what I learned in my situation is the more I was judged, the more I cling to the relationship. The more I
Mm.
kind of like, oh, well, I'm just going to deal with it. We're going to deal with this together. And I would tell
Mm.
him, like, this person said this about me, or this person said that, and they're judging me. And he's just kind of like, screw them. It's us against them. Maybe
Yeah.
it would be a little different if I didn't have all that judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my final thoughts.
Wow. Yeah, that is good. Hey, you are doing so well. Just hats off to you. And like I said, I look forward to I'm definitely gonna send you the information whenever I start casting in
Mhm.
October for the author spotlight. And so if you have a minute, just check it out. Maybe during the week it's up. I just finished season 2 in April. And so I'm definitely looking forward to switch up some things for season 3. I want to keep this Let's Rhyme game. And so I'm going to try to figure out a way to play it with
I
just
like
those people that get on the podcast with me. I am the reigning champion right now. And so I'm so excited. And so definitely, if you're an author and you're watching this and you want to go on IG Live with me, let's do it. I probably will be talking a lot of smack after this, just about me and my winning title. It's just in my blood. I can't lose. Win publications. We can, we will, we win. And that's just kind of what I do. And so, hey, again, hats off to you. Thank you so much. Tell us one more time where we can go get your book, and then we'll sign off.
So for the ebook, if you have an Apple product, an iPhone, an iPad, the ebook can be downloaded and purchased off of Apple Books. For the ebook and the paperback, you can purchase it on Amazon, Walmart, IndieBound, and Barnes and Noble. If you would like an autographed copy, it's $25. Please reach out to me. And if you're in the local area, I will have it delivered to you in 24 hours or less, or I will mail it first class to you.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I probably will post the replay of this on here. And then I want to try and get it up on YouTube in the next few days. And so you can look for it there as well. And just for anyone that's coming in late, be sure to get on YouTube, do a search of Winn Publications, and subscribe to catch the rest of this video. And so, all right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. I'm going to let you go.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. There we have it. How was that? I think that was good. Oh my God. Before we go, and it just kept coming up. talking about marketing with authors. Let me show you something that I recently created. It's called the Author's Marketing Manual. If you are a first-time author or just an author who struggles with your marketing, this will be out in a couple of weeks. It is a manual that goes through coming up with a marketing strategy. In it, we go over sales goals. We go over target markets. We hit on just something that I said earlier about pairing products with your book. We go over just different outlets: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Those are different outlets that you can get on and sell your book. But the thing is you have to know who to connect with. So in the manual, I talk about that. And I also talk about just the different types of readers. Not everybody wants to pay for a book that's $20. But you can still get them to purchase your book even if they, won't spend that much. Another thing that I have coming up is just the Authors Engage checklist. And so if you're on social media and you're not really seeing your numbers go up, you still have the same 300 followers, or you're kind of stagnant on social media, this is going to be so helpful for you. The Authors Engage checklist, daily tasks to increase your engagement and your overall following. And so make sure that you just stay tuned, keep following Winn Publications, and I'll have more author resources for you. And like I said, I'll be posting those products up on the website in a couple weeks. So stay tuned. Other than that, thank you so much for watching and staying until the end. Until next time, you can, you will, you win. Have a good night.